What's up, everyone? I'm Chase Beacott, Senior Editor at Operations Sports, and today I want to talk to you all about MLB The Show Online. Now, before MLB The Show was released this year, most people just hoped the game would simply work and play a lag-free game of baseball online. I know those are low expectations, but they're closer to the truth than not. This year, it seems like we've finally gotten that from the game, but that means the show has moved beyond the technical issues on the diamond and now has to deal with the same problems facing every other sports game: exploits and gameplay shortcomings. So let's take a look at some of the biggest gameplay issues facing users in online head-to-head games of MLB The Show. Now, 1A and 1B on this list are undoubtedly excessive bunting and excessive steals. I'll start by talking about the bunting. At a base level, there's three core issues that stick out. First is the perfection of bunts. Bunt ratings may matter. There's no way to say with 100% certainty they don't, but if those ratings do matter, it's hard to notice. Every player is more or less good at bunting, and I'm talking about both the users and the virtual players themselves here. Players can hit bunts perfectly down the lines and generally hit them with just the right amount of power to make it a tough play 8 out of 10 times. The second issue is the overly long or just unresponsive throwing animations. This seems to be a bigger problem online than offline, and it may have to do with latency or sync issues where everything is just a tick slower online than off. Either way, these animation imperfections might not be a huge issue if bunts were not so perfect and players on the base paths showed any semblance of that same type of slowdown fielding animations go through. But since those things don't happen, it just leads to lots of frustrating moments where you're begging your fielder to get rid of the ball. The third problem is that the other two issues mean just playing the third baseman in isn't enough to survive here. The catcher does not get out of his stance quickly enough a lot of the time, and none of the infielders can be relied on to get the ball out of their hand quickly enough. So you have to use the bunt defense fielding adjustment. In other words, you have to completely sell out to give yourself a hope of throwing out guys at first on a consistent basis. The problem here is that obviously it's easier to get a hit through the infield, and if somebody is on base, you're basically allowing that base runner to get a walking lead. Now, all this still might not be much of an issue because bunts are just singles after all, but if speed kills in the batter's box, then it continues to kill on the base paths, and it continues to kill because stolen bases are cash money this season. But much like with bunting, it's not just one issue that leads to lots of steals. It's a group of individual factors that lead to feeling hopeless. So let's break this down. First off, pickoffs are not a great weapon. Throwing over just once does cause the base runner to get less of a jump, but that still doesn't really matter. Beyond the high total of throwing errors on pickoff throws, unless you have a left-handed pitcher and a left-handed throwing first baseman, you're not really going to get any pickoffs or scare a base runner into not taking that extra step. And really, you shouldn't be picking off guys left and right anyway, but the point is, the base runner is in no way afraid of gambling. And that's because, and this is the next issue, the base runner has every advantage. You can simply automate a steal, which means there's no proper timing needed to at least release the steal button when the pitcher lifts his leg to go to the plate. On top of that, you can get that extra step before the pitcher has time to react. The best way to get a pickoff is catch the base runner as he leans and takes that extra step. The problem is the base runner can take that extra step before the pitcher even selects a pitch and has a chance to throw over. In theory, this is not a bad thing because why should a base runner have to wait? But because this style of pickoff throw is your best weapon, it's completely nullified in this scenario. What's maybe even more excruciating is that even if you pick someone off, they can still steal second. You actually have to fake the throw to first and throw to second because if you throw to first right away, it actually hurts your chances of nailing the base runner, which again goes back to the slow throwing animations. Really, what all this means is that a pitcher's weapons are ineffective. Maybe you get an extra runner here and there slide stepping and throwing fastballs, but pitchouts provide no noticeable upgrade, and it does not matter if a pitcher has a deceptive move to the plate or not, as all pitchers can seemingly be toasted the same way. The point of all of this is that it creates an environment of bitterness and distrust among users. Everybody assumes you put two fast guys at the top of your lineup because you're going to bunt and steal, even though that may not be the case. But everybody assumes you're going to steal second 90+% of the time, and third, by the way, because the game allows you to be that successful. The point being, this is not about making steals impossible to pull off. It's about balancing the weapons each side has to prevent an excessive amount of stealing. I want to end this part of the video by talking about Billy Hamilton. He's a wizard. He's pure evil on the base paths. And yet his stats would not even really stick out to you in the show. And more than anything, that should be the thing that gives you some pause. When the most prolific base stealer has ho-hum stats when compared against a video game simulation, then the simulation should probably be improved in that respect. Now, I think those are the two biggest issues facing online users on the field, but we can still quick fire on a few other elements here. So the next thing I want to mention is the fact that players take the extra base far too often online. They do this mainly for the reason I've already touched on, and that's slow fielding animations. But really the animations are slow only in certain situations. The two classic examples here are going first to third on bunt attempts and advancing the runner to third on balls hit to the left side of the infield. Fielders either have weak arms, take too long to throw, or the base runners simply have too much speed. Pick what you think the problem is here, but it's clearly an annoyance. Visual trolling is what I'll call the next issue. This can be summed up by people going into manager view and simply shaking the camera around, or people excessively pressing the bunt button before a pitch is thrown. The manager view visual issue is just dumb and annoying, but the excessive bunting can actually be a gameplay distraction depending on your pitching camera view. And lastly, what I want to call out are the fact that diving players are hilarious, but they can be exploited. Look, I think it's amazing that every player on defense can go full Superman and cover like 12 feet with the simple press of a trigger, but it's outrageous and probably should be cleaned up. Not only can you cut short catching animations, thereby nullifying the reason to throw a ball on target in the first place, but it also just exploits the game's uncontrollable automated base running. Users really have no control when a base runner gets to a base and then runs through it a couple steps before going back to the bag, which again, in theory is fine. However, if a user is throwing to the base and then doing the crazy Superman dive, there's a non-zero chance that base runner will be out as he nonchalantly goes back to the base, and that's less than ideal. So there you have it. I think those are some of the most pressing issues that folks have to deal with in online head-to-head games. If you think I left something out, want to add to the discussion, or just want to say how crazy I am, feel free to comment below. By all means, go for it.